Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, this is going to be the day 1 update of the Carrion of Creation Bleed Infernal Shade Warlock. So, I don't know if you guys can tell in the background, but I decided to start this patch with a duo, mainly because I wanted to figure out how it felt, and I decided to have Mr. Sleepy Cat play with me. Now, in theory, we were supposed to both play Infernal Shade Warlocks, but the biggest problem was you can't have more than one Infernal Shade on a target. You also can't have more than one curse on a target. So, like, if I try to use a bone curse and he tries to use a bone curse, they override each other, which kind of made things a little bit more difficult than they were supposed to. Also, as well, on top of that, uh, we tried a few different builds for him after we couldn't play Infernal Shade Warlock, and Chaos Bolts worked pretty well. But there was like a bug that was making it so that the bone curse rip blood interaction where like you trigger rip blood and rip it off an enemy and it casts a very large amount of rip bloods, that wasn't working for some reason. And it was because we were so desynced that like everything he was doing just wasn't working. He wasn't doing damage, he wasn't doing anything, literally anything. He wasn't doing, like, he literally wasn't doing anything. And it took us like 2 to 3 hours, not only to try to figure out the bugs, but to also help his build and fix it. And that caused me to be so ungodly behind on League Start that I was only able to reach 300 corruption, unfortunately, this time around. I was going to push farther, but we kind of just got screwed over by the game in multiple different fashions. Also, as well, some of the new mobs, like the bees and the dinosaurs, they do absurd amounts of damage. And when I mean absurd, I'm talking like through the stratosphere. EHG did a rebalancing of enemy damage, and for some reason, certain enemies went up significantly. So like the charging beetles do so much more damage than they did last patch. The bees in the caves, they do like insane damage in insane AoEs in very enclosed spaces, which causes so many different problems, right? And then you also have the T-Rex, which is the same exact problem. They do absurd damage in enclosed spaces. Now, to give you an idea, currently my Aura of Decay setup is giving me well over like 40 to 50% less physical damage taken right now because of my current setup. And I'm still getting like hit really hard by physical hits, not only by the bees and the dinosaurs, but also beetles and a lot of other stuff. Right now, damage seems to be all over the place, and we're very confused about it. We have no idea what's going on in terms of enemy damage and stuff like that. Like, literally, I have no clue. It seems so much higher for absolutely no reason. We literally do not know why. And I've been trying to figure it out, and I've been driven insane by it, as I have done a very large amount of fresh start testing, and I was taking way more damage than normal, and I was like very confused why, and we couldn't figure out why. And then I went and compared some of my footage here to some of the footage from last patch with some other builds and stuff like that, the same corruption, and let me tell you, those beetles were not hitting that hard. They really fucked the duck when it comes to like enemy damage scaling for some reason. I have no idea why. Whatever. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun. There's a lot of bugs, a lot of mishaps, a lot of problems. Like, for instance, the frog build people are hyped about ended up being really bad, which, I kind of expected, but I didn't want to tell everyone because, like, they seem so excited about it. Also, as well, the Ignite amulet, the Wildfire amulet, ended up being shit because they didn't make the nearby, like, prolif, like, big enough. Like, the prolif isn't big enough, and also as well, it has like different mechanics than normal prolif, which makes absolutely no sense. And why would you even add it in the same name as prolif if you're gonna like, make it completely different? Whatever. There's a lot of negative and a lot of positive things this patch. Let me put it like that. The positives of this patch: the new loot filter sounds is amazing. Actually having an ability to put a sound to a loot drop means that, like, it saved the game, in my opinion. Because one of the biggest problems why I think loot felt so bad in last Epoch is you just never had that auditory cue of when a good item dropped. But now You do. It looks good on your filter. It feels good in your ears, and we're finally reaching 2020. Like we're finally reaching the future with this. Like we're finally able to listen to our items dropping, which helps out immensely. Like it made me play for 21 hours straight. I was so addicted, right? Now, another thing that did really well this patch is the primordial uniques in general. They are very accessible. They are harder to get LP on because you have to keep farming them and stuff like that, but they seem relatively accessible. Even the primordial gloves, the Carrion of Creation gloves, the ones that I'm using right now, they are a percent drop chance from the primordial beasts, and you just have to kill more primordial beasts. Pretty much the concept of this is kill more primordial beasts in higher corruption with more evolution. Eventually you will drop the Carrion of Creation. It's one of 3 drop only items currently from the primordial beasts, and all the other primordials are just bought from the vendor, and they seem to be fair prices too. Like they seem to be fair prices. Once I got into empowered monos, I was like printing ancient bones. Like all of a sudden, because I stopped using them for a little bit, I was at like 30k ancient bones, like nothing, and that could have bought me like 2 items easily. So definitely feels very fair. You can't get them too fast, which means, you know, like getting LP on them is going to be like a league long endeavor, but I think that it's okay for things like that to exist in Last Epoch currently, especially with the current quick way of, you know, gearing that we have. Now, how is Infernal Shade? Infernal Shade kicked ass. Like, it just did exactly what it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, because of all of the extra damage that enemies do for some reason, it made me have to invest significantly more into defenses than I normally would on a fresh start because things were doing way more damage. Now, remember, I'm using Aura of Decay. I'm taking 40% less physical damage, and I'm still getting chunked by physical hits. Like, I have no idea. Like, a good example is when we're in the caves to go fight the primordial guys, we don't care about the Rift Beast. The Rift Beast is easy. It's everything up to the Rift Beast, which is hard, i.e., the very dense, thick amount of enemies. Now, my friend, Mr. Sleepy Cat, which I'll be leaving a link to his planner down below, he is playing a Chaos Bolt's Rip Blood setup, and because of the way that his build works, the more enemies there are, the more Rip Bloods he casts on a pack, and they all overlap and such. The biggest problem is when we go into these caves, and he tries to do his combo, which is normally a normal combo, right? There's so many enemies in such a tight spot that the game actually almost crashes every time we go into a cave and he tries to kill stuff. Like you see like all those like green little circles and all that. Those are all the Rip Bloods coming from Mr. Sleepy Cat, and his build's doing absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see it being pushed more. But it's just like, oh my god, like there's like the density of this patch has risen significantly. There are more enemies every mono. There's more enemies in caves. Like this patch has felt really weird, and I don't really mind it per se. I just wish things didn't do so much fucking damage so early on, because we were at 100 corruption for a while and things were still donking us like it was nothing. Yeah, another thing, you can get to empowered monos after only doing 190 mono. Uh, yeah, I don't know if that's good or not. I'll be honest. Like, it's good for us. Like, it's good for the players, right? The biggest problem is when we got to 100 level 100 level content. Now remember, they rebalanced all the content, right? When we got to level 100 content, we were both like level 70. And that was really low. Like, because of the rebalancing of all of the damage and all that, it made our initial empowered grind a little bit more difficult because things were doing more damage than last patch. Things had more HP than last patch, right? I went and looked at some footage from last patch from builds, and I looked at this patch as well from footage. And let me tell you, things have more HP, things are tankier, things do more damage, and I'm completely fine with that. I guess this is just an overreaction to like people saying the game is too easy or something, but they rebalanced a lot, it seems, under the hood. Well, that's going to be it for my day one update. If you want to see what my planner is, it'll be down below. We'll be making a full build guide of this build eventually, the Infernal Shade Bleed setup. Don't worry, we'll be making an actual update eventually. I need to play around with Merchant's Guild a little bit and improve my gear a bit, but if you want to see Mr. Sleepy Cat's and I's gear down below, go right ahead. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at.